What is up, mofos? JJ back here from Rump Your Bets, live, talking a little late night Saturday baseball, April 17th. Nice to hit another solo vid on the channel. First five Mariners under 4.5 last night. Moves to 5-0 with those solo vids. These live shows have been nice as well, except for Holden. Holden, I hope you're watching. I'll talk on the 6 games posted tonight after 7 o'clock Eastern, and give out my best bet as well. Normally I do this vid earlier on Saturdays, like 12 o'clock, but I was at a family first birthday today. Those are always fun. LOL. Either way, different time, but same old me. Tomorrow I have one of my friend's kids' communions, so the weekend party continues. Got a bit to sift through tonight as you decide on who or what to bet if you haven't already. Most of you, I'd assume, already have some of your bets in or all of your bets in, or maybe you spent the entire day trying to fish yourself. I don't judge, but if that was time well spent for you, time well spent. I'm here. I got my water. I got my grapes. You know me, always alpha AF. Brandon, Bobby, you see at least Brandon comes in and does like typical protocol, like Brandon at least knows, he understands, the flaccid size, social security number, his name already, his username already is his name. So, he's not trying to hide anything from anybody. It's people like that we need more of. What's up, Bobby? Been cashing against Davies this year, finally regressed. Yeah, good old Zach Davies. If only continuing to fade Zach Davies was as profitable for me as continuing to back Mitch Keller, I'd probably be okay. But yeah, Mitch Keller, absolute disaster for me. Year in and year out. I don't know why I continue to like him, but that's never going to change. All right, so first up on the slate, Brewers Pirates, total 8. Brewers minus 140. Brett Anderson versus Trevor Cahill. Now, my dad posted that he likes Brewers first 5 at dog money, lay and a half run, I think. Somebody may be able to correct me. What's up, Scott? However, I think a little differently. I don't think differently enough where I'm going to fade him. But the Pirates have been swinging the bats pretty well, or the sticks, if you will. 3 or 4 runs in like 4 or 5 straight games. They draw Brett Anderson here, who doesn't really scare anybody with any of his stuff. Now, I look up and down this lineup. I have it here for a second. Basically a starting lineup for Pittsburgh. I don't think anybody's even sitting. Milwaukee, they just announced, Yelich going to the IL for 10 days, but he's been out anyway. This lineup for Milwaukee, though, is dusty. Up and down, especially in the back of it. Yikes, Jace Peterson. That's basically like batting 2 pitchers. But, so I guess if a target for me, Brewers team totals tagged at 4.5. I don't mind that under for the game. But, I don't always like to, if I'm on different sides than my father on certain games, I don't always like to fire heavy anyway. So it's not a spot I'm going to bet. But ultimately, if you're looking for a spot for me, it would be Brewers under their team total. I don't like what I've seen from this offense to start the year. I know that, Yelich has been out, but there's just like, unless they're hitting home runs, if they're not hitting home runs, this team's not scoring runs. And, tonight, could they hit home runs? I guess. I don't know if they're going to have the park open or not. It's going to be a little chilly in Milwaukee, like in the mid 40s. So that might be enough for them to close it. But if they don't, that's not going to help. And again, I've liked what I've seen from Cahill overall this year. I don't love Trevor Cahill, but his advanced stuff looks good. He hasn't exactly been pitching all that bad or living up to his poor years in the past. He's always struggled severely with lefties, and in Milwaukee, he's throwing a bunch of lefties at him here. But, last year in limited stint, he was actually pretty good versus lefties, if you're into small samples. But overall, it'll be a pass for me in the game. But again, lean for me would be under the Brewers team total at 4.5. I guess maybe you could think about maybe think about targeting the Pirates at 3.5, but that's not a fun spot to back either. All things considered. I'm not a Brett Anderson guy, but again, Milwaukee's got a good pen. So, if Brett Anderson does decent through 6 innings, Penn might be able to lock it down. But all in all, it's going to be a game I avoid. Not any spots I like. And it seems like Brandon in the chat's on the same logic. Definitely a pass for him. Seemingly a pass for me as well. But again, give you some insight as well. Okay. Next game up on the board. So Rangers, Orioles. Rangers lined at 140 or minus 140, total 8.5. Dane Dunning versus Dean Kramer. 2 individuals who, if you saw during the day, you would have no idea who they are or that they are major league pitchers. Nothing against them. They're just young guys that haven't pitched much in the majors or all that much in the majors. Dane Dunning, ERA of 1. I mean, he's been surface level good, and he's actually been pretty good advanced stuff too. Like if you look at his advanced numbers, he's actually pitched pretty well. And Dean Kramer, I mean, guy's been basically a gas can. His advanced numbers don't defend him all that much either. Could be like an opener for them, I assume, today. I know he's one of their bullpen guys. I'm not sure if, how long he anticipates or how long they're going to run him out there. I guess 3 or 4 innings, whatever he can last. If he can go longer, great. But I assume he's going to have a somewhat short stint tonight. Interesting enough, the Orioles have kind of been hitting a little bit. I mean, I know they played Seattle, which hasn't been that great, but they're a bit Jekyll and Hyde. We know how bad they are. It's not like you're targeting like this excellent offense. You look up and down their lineup, and it's so dusty. The fact that even like Mancini and Mountcastle are batting 5th and 6th, his 2 of their better hitters. I mean, it just shows you. But DJ Stewart in the 3-hole. I mean, this team's not going to win a lot of games this year. Neither is Texas, but at least you look up and down Texas's lineup. At least they have some potent bats. Texas has been hitting, which would make you want to go in their direction for this game. But again, they're kind of like they're overpriced in the market right now. So it's like you can back them, but if you want to talk about trending back to your median, Texas has been swinging the sticks a little too well recently, at least for my liking. So I think that's what's padded this number now, and they basically almost sweep the Rays, and then they come out flat yesterday against the O's. I mean, now you figure maybe the bats come back alive in this game, but this is a tough game to handicap. You're not going to find me often bet when 2 bad MLB teams play one another. You're not going to find me want to back it because either one of the bad teams is coming in with steam, like momentum, and then they're overvalued in the marketplace, or one bad team is just so terrible, and you don't want to put your money on a bad team playing bad because what kind of value is that? I mean, ultimately you always want to find value, but these are just 2 dusty teams, dusty lineups, dusty pitchers. I guess blindly you could argue for over, but again, this is a decent sized number with how poor these bats are. So I don't want any part of this game specifically. There'll be spots I like, but these two games to start isn't exactly spots I enjoy. Where do you find deeper site for pitching stats? Like I'm a Fangraphs guy myself. Mini Bobble, I like that name. But I don't dig too far in elsewhere. I mean, Baseball Reference can help you in certain aspects. .com, just in case you thought it was like .org or .gov. No, but .com. So ultimately, this game is not a spot I really like either. I guess you could target some bats if you like the over. Texas is throwing a ton of lefties at Kramer, LOL. But going to be a spot I avoid as well. Okay, so what's next? So game 2, Rockies Mets. I do have a spot I like in this game. Rockies plus 108. By the way, when I read these lines off, I always read the home team's line, so I'm not like reading off the team I prefer. I'm just reading off the home team's line. Rockies plus 108, total 8. German Marquez, Joey Lucchesi. So we know game 1's going on right now with DeGrom throwing for the Mets, and they're likely to win a low-scoring game. So they're going to go right back, and they started full starters in this game, up and down both lineups. So expect 1 or 2 guys to sit from each team in the second game. I'd expect it anyway, even though I know these 2 teams had a few games postponed, specifically the Mets. I do think that they're very likely. Because think about it, DeGrom was supposed to start 3 days ago, and he's starting tonight in Coors. I do think though that these teams both end up sitting a guy or 2 in the next game. The big factor for me in the game upcoming, and it's cold now, but it's going to be really cold in the night game. I mean, it's going to be like, it's supposed to feel like 35 degrees or 36 degrees at Coors, which that's not abnormal for Coors. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not normal by any means, but it's not completely uncommon to have a game in Colorado that's this cold. But the ball's not going to travel as well, and you're seeing a 7-inning game lined at 8, which more or less implies that a 10-inning game at Coors would be lined at about 10 and a half, basically 10 and a half. So, then you start to look at the pitchers, right? So German Marquez is a guy I've always liked. I've liked him for the last few years. I've liked targeting him. He hasn't been off to a good start by any means, or a great start. His ERA is, I think, 4-ish. His surface stuff, I think, is worse. So ERA at 4.02, which sure it's good, but his surface stuff's been bad. He's been bad. This is a decent spot though for him to kind of correct himself. The Mets aren't exactly a team that wows you up and down their lineup. A few bats that might scare you, but from the left side, who does? I mean, Lindor, maybe, right? But Lindor hits better on the other side of the plate. So, Conforto's ice cold. Jeff McNeil. Some of these guys, like who really threatens you on this lineup from the left side outside of Lindor? Dominic Smith is Jekyll and Hyde, right? And the Rockies, on the Rockies side of things, they're going to see Joey Lucchesi. So here's my big issue, my big concern with this game. I do strong lean under the first 5 at 5.5. You could even get some books at 6. I think that pending your book, it might be 6. A lot of your books might not even have a line out because they like to let the first game end before they start releasing lines. But DraftKings has 5.5. It's a strong lean for me under first 5. The big question mark for me and why it's not like a bet I'm really putting my dick on the table on is, so Joey Lucchesi has some severe walk issues. And I personally prefer when I bet cold games or cold weather games that I like the 40 to 45 degree cold games. I don't hate to get super granular, but once you get colder than that, it could start to impact pitcher's control. And Joey Lucchesi has some severe walk issues. For his career, he averages like over 3 walks per 9, which is egregiously bad for a starting pitcher who's been in the league, for quite a few years like he has. I'd almost prefer, and Brandon brings up a good point. Lucchesi's usually really good for them from the first time through the lineup, but again, he just has some severe walk issues. And I can't imagine they're going to give him like this super long leash anyway, but it's not a spot that I love, but the good part is like the Rockies don't have a lot of bats. So, it does counter it a bit. Definitely expect Hampton back in the Hampson. Saying that right? Back in the lineup because he's sitting this game. He'll come at you from the right side and he's going to probably lead off the game. But again, I expect him to sit a bat or two from the left side. It might be McMahon. It might be Blackman. Gun in my head, I assume it'll be Ryan McMahon that takes his seat for the second game. But again, it's all about Lucchesi's control. So if you want to avoid the Lucchesi situation, you can just bet under the Mets total because I do think Herman pitches well tonight. He should. Again, cold weather. As long as these pitchers can keep control, the ball's just not going to fly out of course tonight like it normally would. And I know might be watching the first game and you see low scoring. The bats are still doing pretty well. There's been a few hard hit balls. They just haven't been able to score with runners on. And again, you get a guy like DeGrom, he's going to find a way to wiggle himself out of jams, and he already did, I think, in the second inning or so. It's not a comfortable bet to make because these two pitchers aren't exactly great, and this is a seemingly fair number at Coors. It's not like egregiously high or low, but I think the cold weather has a strong impact on this number, and I don't think it's being taken into account enough. You can play the full game. I just don't love these bullpens. I know the Mets have an above-average bullpen, I guess theoretically or in practice, analytically, they have an above-average bullpen, but like if you watch this team's bullpen last year, it's just this is a tilting pen to watch. But first 5 for me, as long as Lucchesi can keep control, as long as these two pitchers don't walk a lot of guys or walk an egregious amount of guys, it should stay under. The ball likely not to. There shouldn't be an egregious amount of home runs either. So either way though, it's a Coors number. Anything can happen at Coors. So bet with your best intentions, but stay disciplined with it. It's not a bet I'm overweight on. Okay. Padres, Dodgers. Padres plus 106, total 7. Yu Darvish, Clayton Kershaw. What a fun game last night. My ass was tucked in at like 11, so I didn't even get to watch it or the end of it. But I saw highlights from the end, and these two will be battling back and forth all season. Two really good ball clubs. You'd like to see these two at least face off in the playoffs as well. Bunch of fun teams. Padres are very much so up and coming young team. Can definitely give the Dodgers some headaches. And their pitching staff's a lot better now. And tonight, so Darvish is a big star for Darvish. I think, we know what Kershaw is, and the Padres can bring a lot of righties at him. So this is a big star for Darvish, though. I don't want to say from a nervous perspective. I'm not saying he's going to be nervous for a game like this, but this would be a nice win if the Padres can get it, especially after losing the way they did last night by a big long inning by the Dodgers in the 12th, I think it was. Bullpen tax on both ends. So, you might start thinking if these pitch counts pile up for these guys early, maybe a live over spot in like the 5th inning if it's a low-scoring game thus far. Because whoever they're going to bring in from the pens got work last night. Or they're bringing in bad guys from the pen. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to be a necessarily fun game for anybody who comes into this game from the bullpen. because again, like basically everybody threw last night. Who Cronenworth even got in there. Filthy slider, by the way. I think like 85 or 89 mile an hour slider that was just dipping. So that was fun to watch. Always fun to watch position players end up on the hill because of need or necessity, whatever. As far as value for me, and value is something that everybody says like, oh, value is only with underdogs. I mean, that's not true. Value is where you have the numbers lined, and if they're better or worse, whatever, however you want to describe it, than what the market currently has. So if the Dodgers here are minus 120, if you have the game lined at 160, that's value on the Dodgers. So me personally, I think this is more of a coin flip game, and you can get upwards of, just looking at a bunch of different spots, you can get upwards of like plus 110 on the Padres. To me, that's 10 cents of free value because this game's a coin flip today, especially the first five. So I'd argue the first five is a complete coin flip. So if you can get plus 110, Padres money line first five, to me that's a targetable spot. I don't want to lay anything with the Dodgers tonight. I don't want to lay anything with Kershaw. And I don't think our lineup's out yet for this game. I didn't see them before. I don't know what they're waiting for. I mean, the game starts in like 2 hours. Yeah, still no lineups. But either way, especially after last night, you could see a guy or two sit as well. But all in all, we'll call that game a pass for me with a slight lean Padres money line or Padres first five. All right, so Angels Twins. Angels minus 110, total 9. Jose Quintana, Matt Shoemaker. It was a real interesting game. I say that because in normal circumstances, I'd love to just pound the Twins over their 4.5 team total. But Quintana's advanced numbers look a hell of a lot better than his surface numbers. I know that he's currently rocking a robust ERA in the 16s, but that'll obviously come down. The Angels, and the other problem for me, so this is, I guess overall, I'm going to talk myself into why I like Minnesota Twins money line tonight. The Angels, first of all, if they're bottom of their lineup tonight, woof. Okay, Rojas, Iglesias, Rengifo, and Ben Boom. Ben Boom is a guy that's played pretty well at AA, AAA level, but hasn't really had much success at the majors yet, or at least sustained success. Whether it's Angels team total under. Here's the thing, like for me, the Angels are going to need to do damage against Schumacher, with the top 4 guys in their lineup. I mean, Upton, I guess, obviously can go long, but Schumacher's looked decent as well. Like if you look at his advanced numbers, he hasn't been that bad. And even his surface stuff, let me just confirm before I end up putting my foot in my mouth, but I'm pretty sure his surface stuff isn't that bad. Yeah, he's 409. And his advanced stuff isn't that much different than that either. Sure, it's a small sample, so how much can you really weigh it? But this is a dude it's got an ERA of under 4 for his career. I just think he's always been a guy that hasn't really gotten enough love, and this is borderline on a rivalry game. Didn't he pitched for Minnesota? I mean, he pitched for the Angels for a few years, didn't he? So overall, I don't know if they're giving enough love to the Twins in this spot. I get it. The Angels are home. I get it. The Twins can be Jekyll and Hyde. I don't like that their offense isn't, their lineup isn't out yet. So I'd assume maybe they sit Donaldson again, maybe. But look, you throw a lefty at this Twins lineup. That's never fun. Cruz over 1.5 total bases. Yeah, Brendan, I assume that line is like minus 110 ish. Is there maybe minus 125? I guess it has to be over minus 125, right? But I do like, I do prefer the Twins in this spot. I know that the line is what's it now? It is so minus 103-ish, maybe, pending your book. You can get a minus 105, 106. Again, pending your book. For me, I prefer the Minnesota line versus or the Minnesota team in this spot at the current price. And the price is what matters so much, right? Like I think people go back and forth on whether they like a team or not, and they end up betting it, whether it's late and they get a bad number or early and a good number, whatever. But that's what it's all about, right? It's all about numbers and getting good numbers. So like if this was lined, as much as I'm talking up the Twins here, I'm talking up the Twins at the price that the current market is offering. If you bet the Twins at like minus, if the line was Twins minus 140 and the Angels were plus 120, I'd probably go as far to say that I'd probably bet the Angels. I'd dig a little deeper, but for me to make a complete 180 from like me liking a side to me ending up betting the other side, it takes quite a lot of change to move, if you will. Yeah, because again, if I'm betting a line, that means I think the line's itself 20 cents off or 30 cents off. And if it's 30 cents off and then I want to swing and bet the other side, that line's got to move 50, 55 cents for me to be like, okay, now it just makes analytical sense to bet the other side. So for me, this line would probably have to be pegged a little higher, much higher than minus 140 for the Twins for me to want to bet the Angels. But tonight, all things considered, I know Quintana's been pitching. I also guess I'm kind of talking myself into the first 5 under, considering I think Shoemaker throws well, and I think Quintana starts to regress to the median. But it does scare me a bit, a lefty against these Twins bats. There's just no lineup out yet, so I don't know who's going to start, who's not. But assuming you get a healthy amount of righty bats from the Twins, I'm going to like the Twins on the money line. Last but not least, and this will be my best bet. Mariners, Astros. So Mariners plus 110, total 8.5. Chris Flexen, Zach Greinke. Now, I know both these pitchers haven't been off to the greatest of starts, especially Greinke, who people typically assume is always going to throw better than an ERA in the 4s. It's early, though. These things will all even out. And speaking of even out, I think that we go right back to the well here. So I said in the video that I liked the first 5 under yesterday, and I was afraid of the bullpens for why I didn't want to go full game. I said I liked it. I just preferred the first 5, and you saw how that kind of got out of control late. You know, Kikuchi, when his pitch count got higher, the game got ugly, and then similar things happened to your Kitty, where he started to give up runs, and then bullpen started to implode a bit, not crazy, not much on the Seattle side. Actually, I don't think Seattle gave up another run after Kikuchi left. But either way, he gave up a lot of runs in the 6th inning. And, Seattle battled back and ended up winning late. But it's just not a spot that I want. It's just not a spot that I think we should stray away from. I know that these 2 pitchers are worse, but the numbers, these 2 pitchers are worse than yesterday. And the numbers priced about the same, right? 8.5. It is a little cheaper, though, because I think it's minus 115 at BetMGM. I got the number yesterday, minus 120 with the other 2 guys. So, maybe at 8.5, if you can get like 5, that's the interesting thing with a number like 8.5 or 9. Sometimes you can get a book that has 5 at extra vig, or you can get 4 at dog money. I think Chris Flexen's better than his surface looks. He's been good. And look, first of all, we know what we're going to get from Greinke, right? Greinke's not going to have too many control issues. Seattle found themselves on base yesterday a bit when your Kitty had some issues with his control. And the same thing with Kikuchi. These are just 2 teams that if you look up and down these lineups, these. Again, like I said in the video, a few days ago, what do you fear in these lineups? So Kyle Tucker's leading off. This is not a guy that exactly crushes on base percentage. He's got a little pop, but he's not a guy that you're going to expect to draw a bunch of walks in that spot. Taylor Jones at the back, Jason Castro. Now they move Miles Straw to the back of the lineup because he can't get on base. Luis Torrens is in the cleanup hole for Seattle. There's just, and I mentioned the black hole in Seattle's lineup, and that kind of helped out yesterday, confirming that, especially earlier in the game. 6, 7, 8, 9, and today I'd argue maybe even 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's just a black hole in the back of that lineup. And Zach Greinke, while he doesn't have severe K stuff, he's a super smart pitcher, and expect him to wiggle himself out of a few jams if he gets him in it early. And Flexen, I want to dig into a few of the things with Flex. So he's been an underrated. I don't want to say he's been as underrated as like a guy like Mitch Keller has been, but this is a guy that typically throws better than what his surface looks like, and he's throwing better this year. And he went to the KBO last year, and he looked okay, I guess. But then again, the single A guys would probably look good in the KBO. Single A MLB guys. This is a guy that's gotten a little unlucky with his ERA, currently at 4.5, left on base percentage of 70%. And what I do like, or what I've seen, is his K rate's about 9 per 9, which is good. It means he can bail himself out of spots, and he's facing a very, I'll call it, naive Houston lineup with a bunch of these guys that don't normally play in the majors or don't normally get regular starts. I just think it'd be silly for us not to go right back to this well at 4.5. I know that yesterday runs piled up late, so maybe you argue, does that make their bats come alive? Maybe. But I think Flexen does enough to tame this very below average Houston lineup. And I still don't think they've done the same thing. I still don't think the books are adjusting enough to how poor this Houston lineup is. Now, I get it. Yesterday, the game goes over late. An extra innings helps. but there's just these teams aren't getting enough hits. Houston's definitely not. Seattle's definitely not. And I don't want to touch the full game because the bullpens, especially what we saw yesterday. But these are two guys who can definitely get through 5-6 innings without much issue. So yeah, best bet. I'll even type this in here. Best bet, right back to the well. Seattle, Houston, first 5 under 4.5, -115. Bet MGM. We'll cross our fingers. We'll grab the rosary beads and Godspeed. Okay, so I guess to quickly recap, I laid off the Brewers Pirates game. My pops likes the Brewers first 5, laying the half run at dog money. I had some concerns because I think Pittsburgh's been swinging the sticks really well, and Brett Anderson's nothing scary by any means, and I don't want to. And the Brewers aren't going to have Yelich for another bunch of days, and that lineup. You look at the back of what that lineup looks today for the Brewers, and I don't know how they're going to get anything done with the back of that lineup. That just seems like inning enders written all over it. So I'll stay away there. Rangers, Orioles. I mentioned the fact that I don't like betting when two bad teams go up against one another, because even if you argue there's value on one, it's likely because they're playing really bad and bad teams play bad. I mean, it's just what it is. So who wants to target that? I think that the Rangers at 140 seems kind of silly for them to be 140 against anybody. I know the Orioles are a bad team as well, but Dane Dunning, Dean Kramer, it's going to be a stay away spot for me. The game 2 of the Rockies Mets, frigid cold weather, at least as far as I'm concerned, 36 degrees, game time feel. In a few hours when this game starts, the 7.5 inning game, strong lean under 5.5. As long as Joey Lucchesi doesn't walk himself into huge jams, and Herman Marquez, I think, pitches a little better tonight. Padres, Dodgers, I slight lean. Padres on the money line, +1. You can get +108, +109, depending your book. I just think it's a coin flip game today, all things considered, between the bullpen disasters and maybe you just do first 5 instead. Maybe you just do first 5 instead to avoid bullpens being an issue, because there's no one left on those pens to go tonight. But yeah, I think the Darvish first 5 makes sense, but it's only a slight lean for me because it's only only call it 8 cents favorable. But I had the game a coin flip, so 8 cents. If that's a targetable bet for you to make, then you'll probably be making thousands of bets in a baseball season. But only slight lean Padres. Angels, Twins, for me it's a slight lean Twins. I think they're lined at like -103 now on the road. I don't know if that'll get bigger. If it does, I may want to jump in if I can get dog money. If I can get like +105 or maybe +110. That'd be a better spot for me, but overall, I do lean the Twins in that spot. And then Mariners, Astros, that's my best bet. First 5 under 4.5, it's like -115. So yeah, overall, I hope you guys found this video informative. Thank you everybody for popping in. Brandon, thanks for keeping the chat lively. Drew, thanks for popping in. AJ Huffman, Lance, and Scott as well. So guys, good luck with all your bets tonight. Always gamble responsibly. Tomorrow, be back at 12 o'clock with Holden and Joey Work. We're going to try to squeeze that video in about 45 minutes because I have a communion to go to at 1. But overall, I think we can get you enough data. I think we can get you enough banter and shit before that ends. So either way, stay tuned tomorrow. We'll see you back at 12 o'clock Eastern. Tonight, our boy Keg on the Run Pure end is doing a live show for subscribers, giving out a bunch of free plays. And he's, of course, has a bunch of plays for the UFC card. So head over runpurebets.com, get signed up, bet 25% off, going to be only $45 for the month. I mean, I could think of like 10,000 things I spend worse things than $45 on. But overall, again, thanks guys for popping in. Be sure to gamble responsibly and stay safe, folks. I'll see you tomorrow at 12 Eastern.